Hello and welcome. I'm Shalene from Cornerstone and I'm here with Rob Fuller, the practice manager at Northamptonshire Children's Trust, who's here to talk about how they've implemented virtual reality into their service. All right. Hi, Rob. Do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Rob Fuller and I'm the practice manager in the fostering recruitment team at Northamptonshire Children's Trust. Our role is to recruit, train and assess prospective foster carers for the trust. And my role primarily is to supervise the social workers in the team that go out to do all of the fostering assessments.
So just thinking kind of the training, so in terms of skills to foster, is that another place where you've used it?
Yeah.
And how has that kind of worked?
Absolutely. So as soon as the headsets were delivered, and as soon as we had access to some of the 2D content as well, we put in some of the 2D videos for In Utero and Carnaby Street.
Okay, yeah.
When we start to talk about attachment, and maybe bring in some, either disorganized or dysregulated young people into your home, how can we look at some of those early experiences and then see how the child is viewing the world through their own? So some of those very hard-hitting videos that we show people in Skills to Foster is then a talking point to start to say, okay, so how is this child now who's experienced some of this abuse and neglect, have really got those feelings of shame inbuilt in them very early on, from very early experiences? How do we think they will feel coming to your home? And how do we think they will react to certain things, which then brings us on to discussions around safer caring and keeping yourself safe from allegation, and all of those things that we can neatly wrap up using a 30-second or a 2-minute video clip.
Yeah, of course.
That would take days and days or hours and hours to explain using case studies and everything else. Actually, those videos, 2 or 3 years down the line now, we've been using this. People who are now coming to open evenings, helping us out with recruitment or anything else, they're still talking about those videos. And they're still using that as like the base foundation of what they do in fostering, because they're still talking about that man who's leaning over you, or that feeling of helplessness when you're in the room and you're in the womb, and you're being shoved around or pushed, or you can hear things outside but you can't control it at all. It brings you back to being that very helpless, powerless child in a world of chaos that you can't control.
Yeah, and I guess as well, just thinking on that in terms of that unique perspective, and like you were just saying, in terms of we could try and kind of teach our foster carers, parents, carers, and help them to understand, but actually without that kind of felt experience, there's always that kind of disconnect. And I guess thinking about the VR and what you're just kind of saying is about bringing that connection as well to then the children and young people that, like you said, will be living in their home, and giving a different kind of dynamic then, isn't it?
I would say the most emotive thing that we had prior to virtual reality, we had 2 letters, one from a foster carer and one from a young person. The letter from a child to the foster carers, he reflected on his time from when he first came into care to how he ended up, in the outcome. And then the letter back to that child from the foster carers, talking about their journey as well.
Okay.
That had people in tears.
Of course.
And actually sometimes when we read it out, we don't use a video or anything for it. We read it out, and actually every time you read it, it hits you. It really does. But it was still limited, still very limited, because it was about that one child's experience at that particular time. We didn't know anything previously about that child, but when you start getting people feeling certain things, that's when you can start to get their minds working. That's when you start to see those paradigm shifts to think, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think that, I know a child might have been abused or hit, or, whatever might have happened. They might not have had access to food or whatever, but I didn't actually think that they would come into my home expecting that as well.
Of course.
And I think that's where we start to move from being safe to a child feeling safe. And I think that's where we need to shift people in the training. The other thing that we would use prior, and we still do, we have a young person come to talk each week. We have a set of a few young people that come to talk to everyone, but they will bring their own unique experience. And that's really powerful, especially some of them who come with their old foster carers as well.
Yeah.
Because they're still in contact after about 5 or 6
Fantastic.
years. And those elements work really well. And interestingly, we have the letter right at the start and the young person pretty much at the end. And so we still do that, but then we stick VR right in the middle. That links those two bits nicely, because what it then does is we can start to use a point of reference, say, actually, this child who's experienced this at the start, because we're talking about the Dear Josh letter, then we're starting to talk about the young person as they've come out of care. But this bit in the middle, this is more than likely what's occurred somewhere along the line to either of those young people. We very much embedded it into Skills to Foster. On a smaller group, we'll use headsets. In a larger group, we would use the 2D versions, but actually hold some headsets aside if people want to look at the 3D as well. I'll be honest, we've had some people who have needed a bit of time out after seeing them. We schedule it just before a break as well. The worst that we've had is someone needing to disappear for 15 minutes because it brought back things for them. Overwhelmingly, it has positive reactions, because even those who are triggered by it initially will have a small period of self-reflection, maybe with the help of us or the partners or whatever. They will be able to say, actually, yes, it hit something for me, but actually that's the reaction we want.
I was just about to say that must be an important kind of part of it for you guys as the fostering service. You want to pick that up at this stage, don't you? Rather than at the stage of when they've been approved and a child is placed and then they're triggered by something that child kind of brings to the table, really.
Absolutely. I think the unique strength of it, I would say, is it sets the bar of what you're going to feel in the future. There's a lot of people out there who want to become foster carers. We talk about allegations, we talk about safer caring, we talk about trauma, we talk about adverse childhood experiences, we talk about, the impact of abuse, how a child really just forms these pre-hardwired defense mechanisms, if you like, as a way of surviving according to how they view the world and how safe or not they feel the people are around them. But I still think there are some people, and it's only natural, I guess, who think, nah, that won't happen to me. I'll have a nice experience of fostering. It will be absolutely rosy and wonderful. Sometimes that happens.
Of course.
Sometimes it does, but a lot of the time, even just the trauma of being placed somewhere else outside of your birth family, no matter how straightforward or simple on paper, or whether this child seems very okay right now, you cannot accept that as how they are feeling. The tip of the iceberg, and actually when we start to talk about some of those traumas and demonstrate it through the virtual reality, that's when people start to really reflect on it and think, actually, you've opened up a trapdoor for me that I didn't even know existed. That child might seem very calm. I might be quite happy and content in the fact I've done a wonderful job as a carer. They've come in, they haven't said a word to me. That's fine. They're sitting up in their bedroom now. Oh, that's okay. It'll be okay. That's fine. Actually, it might not be okay. And to all the professionals involved, that child's safe now.
Of course.
Does that child feel safe? And that's something, a bit of a golden thread that we come through all the way through to Skills to Foster, that the virtual reality helps to highlight.